right, now we had promised you that House Majority Whip Steve Scalise would be on today's show. He got called into an emergency meeting. Who are we to argue? But a man of his word, he said, you know, I'll come back tomorrow. And he will. I've never seen him not honor his word. He's a prince in that town. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, he's been through a hell of a lot. So who am I to question him? All right, now in the meantime, we're going to get his take on whether there's going to be a tax cut too, or whether this idea for an additional prosecutor is even necessary. His thoughts on all of that on a special Your World tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If it matters to you, it matters to
his comments on that in a moment. But first, the president is commenting for the first time on camera about an FBI informant communicating with associates of his campaign.
A lot of people are saying they had spies in my campaign. I hope there weren't, frankly. But some man got paid based on what I read in the newspapers. And I think the Department of Justice wants to get down to it. And I can tell you, Congress does. So if they had spies in my campaign, during my campaign for political purposes, that would be unprecedented in the history of our country.
Senator Chuck Schumer is saying these moves to learn more about the FBI informant are an attempt to obstruct the special counsel's Russia investigation.
While an investigation is open and active, demands for oversight are tantamount to interference, especially when the folks demanding the information are the most biased, irresponsible actors. A man like Devin Nunes, who I hear privately from my Republican colleagues, they think he's off the deep end.
Oh, please. All right, off the deep end. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Okay, so here's a question, Kimberly.
Yeah.
The president has the power as the chief executive officer, the president of the United States, commander-in-chief, to declassify all of these documents.
Yes.
Would that just be a good idea?
You know,
get it over with?
I'm so glad that was the first question, because I think it's fascinating, and there are a lot of people calling for it, saying, you know what, let's just show complete transparency, declassify the documents, and put it all out there so there isn't some of this leaking this and leaking that, putting bits and pieces out. It will actually show the whole framework and exactly what happened and who did what. And maybe that's what the American people need at this point, instead of like a drip from the faucet coming down. Put it all out there, and then we'll know.
That's good. What do you think, Brian?
I think
you for that, or you're not for that?
Legal experts will say that is a huge mistake, because there might be somebody inside Russia that we're dealing with right now that are helping us today. I would say this: if you're doing a counterterror operation, why don't you stop at the people? Why don't you start with the people that are actually trying to infiltrate, the Russians? Show some guts. Go over to Russia and ask them what's going on, or use your coy contacts to find out what they have to say. Instead, you're going up to these ancillary people on the Trump campaign, and nobody says they're major players, and trying to find out what somebody might have whispered to them in a drunken conversation. And for people to say, like Chuck Schumer, it's irresponsible to allow these people to find out who has infiltrated your campaign, that's because it's not your campaign. Right. If someone infiltrated Chuck Schumer's campaign, they wouldn't say, oh, wait a second, the FBI is allowed to have their sources. I don't blame President Trump for being outraged to find out what was going on in or not going on with this Cambridge attorney, or excuse me, the Cambridge professor. I don't blame him for finding out Carter Page, Clovis, and Caputo, what was happening with these guys and the names that came out. Why wouldn't he be curious about that? It would be illogical for him not to be. The only thing at stake is his presidency and how long he stays.
Well, okay, Juan, let me ask you then about the idea that if the deep state, if we're calling it that, was so determined to hurt President Trump, what about the Democrats feeling like they actually hurt Clinton more because they kept the FBI investigation into the Trump campaign under wraps, but were more forthcoming in the press about Clinton?
Well, I mean, I think that's, you know, it kind of contradicts the whole flow of what you're seeing now coming from the president and conservative media, that the campaign that was hurt by the FBI was the Clinton campaign. There was no damage done to President Trump's campaign. In fact, I mean, there's some people who are arguing that because they were conducting a counterintelligence operation as opposed to a criminal investigation, they were actually trying to protect and try to act as a buffer to keep the Russian influence out of all the campaign, including the Trump campaign. But I think what you're seeing now, in response to your question, Dana, is an effort by the president, and I think it's unprecedented, to sort of weaponize an investigation into the investigation into him.
But is it weaponizing, Greg, if it's the Justice Department saying, okay, look, we have an inspector general that everyone seems to support, Michael Horowitz, because he's a fair guy, and he said that he'll take a look at this as well. So can we just let that play out? But it could be months.
What is Russian for Mexican standoff? Because that's what we have right now.
Standoffsky.
There you go. Spy versus spy. Look, I actually see what the question you just asked, Juan. I see the opposite. Hillary's investigation was put in the press to help her. It was to help. Remember what Comey said?
Yes.
Got to get this out of the way, because if she wins and this comes out, we look really bad. So let's help her. Trump's was kept under wraps because they wanted to catch him.
Right.
That was all. That's why you see why is this one known and why is this one? You can look at it any way.
Or because they thought he wasn't going to win.
Yeah, that's true. Could be, but it is. You're going back to the Laurel and the Yanni, which I will never give up. The fact is, which collusion story now is more persuasive? All right, so let's take the Yanni, which is the Trump collusion story. It's been going on for 18 months. We haven't found a damn thing. Then you look at the Laurel of collusion. FBI, Hillary, Democrats, the British spy, one informant, maybe two informants inserted into the campaign. If you compare these two sides, you got one where there was a meeting with a woman about the Majinsky Act. That's something like that, right? Ooh, that's earth-shattering. Meanwhile, you got a dossier paid for by Hillary. You got an informant, maybe two, placed as a favor. You have the press playing it down. You have the dossier contents leaked. When you start comparing these things, one is making a hell of a lot more sense as collusion than the other.
I think you're going down what I would call the rabbit hole, because there's a lot of
we've been going down
theories.
Juan, we've been going down this rabbit hole now for 18 months.
Yes,
Forgive me if I find another rabbit hole to go down.
Okay,
You know who
because
brought us
you
down
should
that hole?
stop.
The
Yes.
Washington Post and New York Times
Exactly.
on Thursday. They began to leak out information, maybe to get ahead of inquiry
Preempt.
conclusions, to let us know that there's a rabbit hole out there that you're about to go down. So let me give you an idea what's at the bottom. Here's what I would say. I think Alan Dershowitz nailed it when he said, I don't care if it's the 98 Clinton investigation or now the 2017-16 Clinton Trump campaign. You will never get to the bottom of it as long as it is this type of operation. We got to go back to the 9/11 Commission to get answers, publish the results, because it did not affect the election. You should just find out what's wrong to stop the next problem, because this horse is out of the barn and no one even saw the horse.
Well, see, I think there's a problem here. First of all, this latest effort to somehow say, I hereby demand, like he is not president, but he's some authoritarian ruler. I hereby demand that the Justice...
Words, not deeds.
That, to me, well, what happened, Greg? Immediately, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, said, okay, I'm going to do this. And the question becomes, is he simply trying to appease the president, or is he following orders?
You're obsessing over words.
Oh,
I hereby. Okay, so
I
it sounds like King Arthur's castle.
It sure does. It sounds like a
what's the
king,
difference?
not the president of the United States. Because you are normalizing this kind of abuse of power while the president is under a special
But can you imagine-
As you
prosecutor's
defend
scrutiny.
another abuse of power.
But what I think everyone's missing is not who's right or wrong. It affected, if Trump is trying to run an election, he hires his foreign policy counsel that he got on the back of a Cheerios box. And they go out and they do their thing, and somehow they are targeted by this informant to see what information they have. Why can't he find out what happened?
But the government told the Trump campaign the Russians are going to try to do this.
Yes.
Okay, so they knew. And then whatever, the people that were on the campaign, we know that they did have these contacts, the Mickey Mouse, whatever, drunken things. But those weren't disclosed, Kimberly. So then you have this question. And I agree, the Laurel and Yanni thing. But I don't understand. If we ask, the House Republicans are asking, 12 House Republicans are asking for a second special counsel.
boy.
If you want to make this so much longer and lead this show every day
every
for
day.
the next 10 months on this issue, that would be a good way to do it.
But that's still unfair, because you're saying we'll keep going with we'll keep going with this other investigation, and we'll keep
No,
saying.
I'm saying release all. My
I want
would
it
be
to
like
end.
for release all the documents tomorrow.
But you should also say, well, if they think this is just as important, then it's just as important.
Okay, so Dana, just to finish this, so we concur on that they should just release all the documents, because I think then we're going to try, get another special counsel. Let's have the IG report come out. Let's have the documents released. It's certainly within the power and authority of the President of the United States to do so. So it's not like he's trying to hide something. He's saying, let's put it all out there. And as it relates to any people that we have operating in the theater that could be compromised, you can redact their names. It's not like you just turn it over and there's nothing.
Right.
There are protections in place. This legal expert is
What about
telling you.
North Korea?
Oh, go
right.
for it. Knock yourself out. Here, listen to the president on North Korea.
Oh.
So you have the sound.
There are certain conditions that we want, and I think we'll get those conditions. And if we don't have the meeting. North Korea has a chance to be a great country. And it can't be a great country under the circumstances that they're living right now. For a short period of time, we've been dealing with North Korea, and it's been a, good experience.
So the president basically saying, we're tapping the brakes on this thing, Kim Jong-un, and we are not just going to come over there for a show.
Yeah, no, this is purely negotiation tactics. Look, if time is not in his favor, the deadline moves. He introduces and reintroduces key themes that we've heard before, which is like, you never know how it's going to go. You never know until the last minute. When you're buying an apartment or a car, you never know when somebody's going to walk out. They might walk out once, twice, 3 times. And the one thing that's important was the tone, which is it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen now, because it's going to happen. There's a key thing in this. He's dangling the carrot while holding the stick, while remaining optimistic and promising, while also unloading flattery on everybody. This is his unique tool set.
It's clear that it was China that turned things, I believe, that week before. That next thing you know, Kim Jong-un and his unitard shows up on that beach in China, and they're staring at the ocean, and it comes back, and next thing you know, he's got a brand new tone, and he's upset about the military exercises. Clearly something happened the week before. Fine, but I was surprised it didn't happen earlier, but they were on a one-way track to coming towards some type of legitimate summit.
Well, and I guess it could still happen, but maybe June 12th is a little bit too soon.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit, aggressive. And so the president is doing what he should do, which is letting the American people know, don't have your hopes up that perhaps it's not going to happen June 12th, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, because that's coming up pretty quickly. And the point isn't to just rush to a summit, but to get to it in the right way and make sure that some of the terms and ideas are specified and there is some accord.
There is
and not
risk,
surprises.
though, right?
I wonder, I don't know what's going to happen with that Nobel Prize.
I saw that coming.
I don't know.
Here we go.
I saw that
I
coming.
can feel
Root
it in my
against
heart.
the president.
To the Haterville.
Let me just say, Kimberly,
Yes.
if he wasn't acting on the basis of impulse and I'm going to just prove that I'm the only president who could do it, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack, they couldn't do it, but I'm going to do it, maybe they would have thought, oh, maybe we should set the terms before we agree to a meeting. That's what most presidents would have done.
Okay, but I mean, you're
so
just too
sanctions
eager
didn't
to
work.
criticize his efforts to try to
No.
get to a peaceful solution. And my point is,
no.
there are bumps along the way.
Yeah.
China's playing a big part
but
in
the
it. So it's a
process-
very complex situation.
Correct. That's why you saw other presidents say that giving this guy a meeting is a reward for him. He wants that international stature. We don't give that unless you are very clear you're going to do away with your nuclear weapons.
Okay,
and clearly that has become
well,
the point of contention.
That approach,
even now.
approach in the past has not garnered favorable results, has it?
Right. I do think the president, this one issue, actually has been measured. He's never even been at a rally without saying, maybe it'll happen.
Yep,
Maybe
he's
it
always-
won't. And even on
Never
Twitter,
lied
when
about
it
this
began
stuff.
to go sideways last week, he didn't tweet out anything derogatory about him,
Inflammatory or
derogatory. He went after Brennan.
This is behind the scenes. This is China that's involved, and
North Korea has some nerve. They asked, one of their new demands is that the South Koreans have to return 13 defectors that worked in a restaurant in China back to North Korea, which, please, I hope that doesn't happen.
No.
Okay, next. Democratic hysteria over President Trump's animals remark intensifies. Details next.
All right. You like that, Craig? Yeah. It's been almost a week since some media took President Trump's animals' comment on murderous MS-13 out of context, but some Democrats still can't get over it. Among those railing against the president is the Oakland, California mayor, who you recall tipped off illegals to help them escape ICE raids.
I believe that this president's language is racist. It is fear-mongering, and it is trying to distract the American people from the job that elected officials are supposed to do, and that's improve the lives of the people that we represent, instead of casting blame and dispersion against a very vulnerable population.
Well, and as liberals criticized Trump for his language, a Harvard law professor was forced to apologize for this comment he made about the president.
you can't be the boy who cried wolf and expect to have a viable impeachment power. You can't use it over and over again against the same president.
Right.
If you're going to shoot him, you've got to shoot to kill.
Okay, Greg, so a lot of incendiary, inflammatory comments, in particular the comment about the president being racist is just totally out of line.
These are both examples of metaphors, and if you're not going to take the word, if you're going to take the word animal literally, then you have to take shoot to kill literally. I don't take either of them literally. It was an unfortunate choice of words, and I'm very pro metaphor, and I think the journalists should be pro metaphor.
You ran on that platform.
I did, but I love
He's
this.
still running.
Right now, an MS-13 member just got a 40-year prison sentence for conspiracy, which included the murder of a 15-year-old boy. Do you know what his name was? $10. I'll give you $10. What was his nickname?
The animal.
Animal. So I think Trump is right. Yeah, his nickname was Animal, and he killed a kid. So the thing is, I think anytime the Democrats are standing up for a murderous drug gang, it's a bad day for the Democrats. It really is.
You think that this is about somebody standing up for MS-13?
Yes.
That just proves how off you are on this, because what we're talking
not
about
evidence.
is a president who is referring to people as animals.
Gang members, Juan.
No. He has managed to say
look, they're
there's
so
a
friendly
connection.
and innocent.
There's a connection between most immigrants, especially illegal immigrants.
So they're all
not
gang members.
violent,
So you're saying
not
all
violent.
immigrants are gang members?
Greg, let me finish.
Go for it.
So
You're
he's
digging your
not
own hole.
Most immigrants are not violent. They're hardworking people who come to this country with great dreams, willing to make tremendous sacrifices in order to join the American family.
No one disagrees
I agree, but you're
with that.
conflating them with gang members.
President Trump, and at the campaign level and now as president, has continually made the case that, these illegal immigrants, they come in here, rapists, thieves, and now animals. No wonder people are upset.
There are times the president makes mistakes. And this was not one of them.
Correct.
I was clear. I watched it. He clearly was talking about the gang members. He was not talking about anyone who crosses the border. And in particular, these guys cut out the body organs of people when they're still alive. There's about 10,000 United States. They prefer, instead of shooting you, to use a machete because they want the blood.
Is that is that typical of most immigrants?
That's the point. He was calling them animals. My goodness.
We agree on that. We agree on that.
Well, there were times the president does not say what he means. This was not one of those times.
But the thing is that having long engaged in demonizing, if not dehumanizing, immigrants, when he said this, it struck people as, like God, it's a wink and a nod again to his base. Wow. Oh, let's hate on immigrants.
No. So basically, because he was right there, he must have been wrong at another time. That's how they justify hoaxes.
Okay,
For more, here's Dana.
All right, silencio, por favor, immediatamente, Dana.
I just think that people need to pick their battles a little bit more, be more strategic and smart about picking your battles. This is not one that I would have. In fact, I think the Democrats could have gone a step further, like outflank the president and be tougher on MS-13 than he is. Like, try that maneuver next time, because this one didn't work.
No,
there's an interesting column today in the Wall Street Journal by Jerry Saad about immigration. And what he said was, we have declining birth rates, we have needs in so many industries for workers right now. But we're not having a discussion about how immigrants, in fact, could add to our economic activity, to the vibrancy
That's
of
a great
us as
discussion,
American
but
it is.
We've actually had that discussion.
It gets lost when somebody's calling immigrants animals.
No, it's lost when you misidentify that as calling immigrants animals. He was calling gang members animals.
You don't call
Yanni
anybody.
Laurel.
Don't call anybody
Democrats aren't
animals.
having that
How about Hitler?
discussion.
Don't call
Hitler's not an
people-
animal?
No,
Is
you know
Hitler?
what?
Hitler?
You
Is
know
he?
what?
No.
I believe-
To answer this question, Juan,
How
is
about
Hitler
the
an
worst
animal?
criminal? No. How about the worst criminal in the United States? Is he an animal? No, he's a human being.
Well, you evaded the question.
Well, I don't. You're trying
Hitler-
to say I'm playing games. I'm just trying to be
You
serious.
are. You're playing with language.
We're not playing
called
games.
himself animal.
I'm the product of
His
immigrants
nickname was
coming in.
Animal.
People, listen, the president and Americans, we appreciate the value and the work of immigrants and families that come over here to be a part of a productive, law-abiding society.
Can I
Except one's nicknamed Animal.
Exactly.
Dana, you stop me if I'm wrong here. 2/3 of the immigration debate we can actually agree on.
Absolutely.
It's the 1/3 we can't get past between the walls.
I want you
illegals.
deported,
If
Kilmeade.
everybody could
Again?
agree,
Back to Fox and Friends.
if everybody could agree on MS-13 being the bad actors,
kidding.
and that
We
you could
all
actually
agree
have
on
a
that.
Well, actually, we're not agreeing on that because
Yes.
that's what this whole thing has
No.
turned into because people chose
Language.
to go after the president on one particular thing.
No, see,
But-
I
Words,
disagree.
not
Dan.
You're never going to
Dan,
get immigration peace.
I agree. I don't think you're going to find too many defenders of MS-13. The defense
They're called
or
the Democrats.
counter argument
I mean,
is,
it's just-
do you really want to call human beings animals?
Yeah, why not?
If the shoe fits. And that's the, but by the way, that's the nicest thing I've heard gang members in MS-13 called. Come into one of my courtrooms and you see what they do. They're called savages and everything else.
He
And I'm
named
telling
himself Animal.
Right, and one of them, yes, self-identified named Animal. Okay,
Yes.
so let's not get caught up in this little vanilla biscuit, semantic gymnastics. You know what he meant. He said it. He wasn't talking about hardworking immigrants, and that's that.
But that other debate is a good one to have if we could actually.
We do have it.
we
We've
get
done it on the
We'll have
5
it
many
tomorrow.
times.
We get on the 5. All right, ahead of midterms, Democrats are now mimicking President Trump's winning campaign strategy. Are they a party out of ideas? Next.
We are going to drain the swamp. We need to drain the swamp, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. Drain the swamp.
Nope.
Hey, it worked for President Trump in 2016. Remember, drain the swamp? Now it appears Democratic leaders are trying to hijack one of his signature phrases, his slogans. For example,
the American people are confronted with one of the most compromised, corrupt administrations in history. Instead of delivering on his promise to drain the swamp, President Trump has become the swamp.
The swamp has never been more foul or more fetid than under this president.
as a tribute to Senator Schumer, I'm going to move my tie right there.
and look down at your paper
Okay,
so we
there you
just see
go.
the top of your head.
Meanwhile, Deputy DNC Chairperson Keith Ellison, okay, I'll call him a chairman, debuts a bizarre new anti-Trump song over the weekend.
If I want to be called a stable genius, I just call my best friend Vlad Putin. Vlad Putin, my buddy Vladimir Putin. You can stop asking about Comfefe. That's just Russian for porn. Stormy Daniels, I miss you, Stormy Daniels.
Oh, but
Democrats may want to rethink these type of tactics, or they may want to embrace them, because a new CBS poll shows the midterm generic ballot advantage for them that was in double digits is now down to single digits, under 5 in most polls. Joining us now is Dana Perino, ignored in the last block because I believe you're undervalued. I want to let you leave.
Yeah, because you, Chatty Cathy, are talking too much in this one and this one.
Can I finish?
No.
So, Dana, what do you think about this? These
Well,
two incidents of extreme behavior.
It is a strange thing. The Laurel and Yanni thing might get old, but I feel like it's been really instructive over the past week to understand how people can see things so differently. So when Keith Ellison does that performance in front of that crowd, they love it. Okay, they love it. When President Trump is at his rallies, his people love it. And either, if you look at it from the other side, you're like, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I do think that the Democrats are a little bit in trouble. Just today, 4 of the House seats were moved from the Democrat position to either solid Republican or lean Republican or to toss-up where it had been in the Democratic camp. So I mean, if we're talking razor-thin margins for who's going to control the majorities in the fall, I think that the Republicans are definitely on the right track.
It's interesting because, you know, it's so far away. We did have the generic ballot. It's almost giving the House already to the Democrats already. Can they hold the Senate? But now things have changed a bit. But what they're pointing to, Juan, is Scott Pruitt's had some problems.
Yeah.
Ben Carson's got really nice furniture. Tom Price made some bad travel decisions, lost his job. I don't know if that's a swamp.
How about Mick Mulvaney saying he'll meet with people who are donors? How about?
I was taken out of context.
How about
I think
Michael
Brody,
Cohen?
that story today was big.
Yeah, that's
No,
another.
but
How about Michael Cohen just doing business with companies in order to
He's out of
buy
the
pay-for-play access to the president? I think he's the president's lawyer.
But do you
how
like
about
do you like
how
drain the
about
swamp?
how about less taxes, less regulation for the big corporations and for the rich, not for the working people? How about payments to a porn star and then lying about it? Swamp-like behavior, it seems to me.
Do you like the phrase?
Yeah.
Even though it's taken right from Donald Trump.
I think Donald
Why not
Trump,
use MAGA?
Donald Trump made it a hit. Drain the swamp.
So don't you think, as in terms of labeling and in terms of branding, don't you think that ship has sailed?
Don't you think this is like jujitsu, where you use your opponent's energy against them?
Karate Kid is coming back, Greg. And
I'm a
again,
big
we do
fan of
not
it.
know if
Ralph
Ralph Macchio
Macchio,
still
yeah.
has it.
Yeah, no, he's only 70.
Yes.
So I think he can come back. The Blue Wave might be a blue grave, the way they're headed. They got no originality. I came up with some planks for them, the top Democratic ideas. Gang members are people, too. I think that should be. Hamas are just victims of Zionism. Coffee shops make great homeless shelters. We're going to do that
Coming
next
up
segment.
later, yeah.
And you can spy on campaigns, and we liked it better when North Korea wanted us dead. See, every time there's progress,
ISIS
the Dems
flourishing. You forgot that one.
lose. The more there is progress, the Dems lose. By the way, I have to defend Ellison. I think he has a good voice.
Right.
That was a talent show. I've seen some Republicans at talent shows. Ooh, man, it's pretty bad. But ridicule does feel good. It soothes your friends, but it's not a plank. Right now, the Democrats prefer to be the hecklers in the stands rather than being on the field. They're like the drunk guy screaming at the third base coach.
And it's been 18
Kimberly,
months.
they had
18 months, they got nothing.
That was very good. They did
Thanks,
have a slogan,
Brian.
better deal. They had a slogan, better deal. It
Yeah.
wasn't going anywhere because Russia and impeachment took it and swamped it.
No,
Pun intended.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the Democrats are just guilty of plagiarism. They're trying to steal from President Trump.
Just like Joe
and
Biden.
They have no new ideas, and they're repeating it, trying to see if it could work for themselves. That just goes to show you that's a party in disarray. They're completely disconnected from the voters. Once again, it didn't work with Hillary Clinton. And by the way, that wig looked more like Hillary Clinton. That's why I was confused. I was like,
Right,
that's
a little
President
bit
Trump's
was
hair?
confusing.
Yeah, and fine. So he can sing and dance, whatever. Okay, that's perfect because he might be needing to do that going forward because I don't know if it's going to work out with lack of ideas for the DNC.
And we're still in May, but 2 and 3 are happy with the economy,
Yes.
and overall consumer confidence is up to a 17-year high. So these are positives, but as you know, if we were doing the show in January and we were wearing coats and the heat was a little slow to get on, then it looked as though it was double digits.
Yeah, you should check out retirements and fundraising on the Democratic side. Looking good. But you know what, Republicans?
Republicans have a
Get
ton of money.
complacent,
Yeah.
please.
All right, 26 minutes before the top of the hour. Controversy is brewing.
Who are you?
Brewing over the Starbucks, over the chain's no purchase necessary story.
What are you on
That
radio?
story Next.
Yeah.
Baby, I'm gonna
All right, Starbucks just announced a new policy that lets people hang out and use the bathroom without ever having to buy anything. This was their PR response to that big screw up when 2 black men were arrested for hanging around in one cafe in Philly. Now, Starbucks, realizing they just sent an open invite to the nation's homeless, now says sleeping, drug, or alcohol use will not be tolerated. So how will this work? Well, like panicky responses, the consequences won't be borne by the execs. The CEO won't be on the front lines. He'll be too busy monitoring his company's Twitter feed. Instead, baristas, people making far less money than the consultants, will be forced to ask other patrons if someone's behavior bothers them before taking action. So this whole thing is going to end up looking like a rerun from Cops.
Oh, my gosh.
And it puts pressure on employees and later the police, who will be blamed by both the unruly patrons and social justice warriors now present at these overpriced coffee temples. As you know, 8,000 plus locations will shut next Tuesday for unconscious bias training. I call it a wokachino. Unconscious bias training. You see the trick there? Since it's unconscious, how can you deny your bias? It's automatic and invisible, so you can't know you're a bigot. Only in today's PC America could a coffee shop decide that it's the moral conscience of the nation. So Starbucks, keep the new $7 virtue signal Vente. We drink coffee to be awake, not woke.
That was a good one.
Thank
It should
you.
be in your next book, Volume 2.
Why, thank
of
you.
your
I have a book
Greg
coming
Law.
out now of monologues I'd like to share with America.
Bring up the full screen.
Yes, yes. Okay. Juan, this puts the responsibility on the baristas who just want to sell coffee, and they're going to end up becoming mental health professionals in New York. There are people that are unstable that come into these places, and it can be pretty ugly. You can't put that kind of pressure on people.
You know, you're cranky today, so I'm going to forgive a lot.
Well, he's got a sore throat.
He's got a sore throat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strep
Well, we
throat.
love you, but you're cranky today. So anyway, I just want to say this is a rare moment when I agree with you. because I'm a regular Starbucks customer. But the thing is, Greg, I go in and I get upset if I can't use the bathroom because it's occupied or someone's in there for hours. But I also get upset when I can't find a place to sit or even stand.
Yes.
Because guess what? It's not homeless people, but it's oftentimes young people
with their
who they got their computers, they got this and that. Now, I will
They'll
say
be there
this.
for hours.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get
Because of
upset,
the Wi-Fi.
but then I feel like, you know what? I am a privileged little snot because my wife said to me and other people have said to me that Starbucks intentionally created a culture where they're a coffee shop, where they're the so-called third place, where you can meet your friends, where you can have debates, where you can work. And then all of a sudden you say, well, but that guy looks kind of threatening, or that guy looks like he's poor and he can't be in here. Well, that's a contradiction. And then all of a sudden you do get involved in, are those two guys who are asking to use the bathroom just bums, or are they just two businessmen?
Okay, hello.
Yes.
2 words, Dunkin' Donuts.
That is my point.
There goes the stock price. Let me tell you, if they're going to act like this with the nonsense, no one's trying to discriminate. Are you buying something in there? Do you have something you'd like to purchase to stimulate the economy? Or do you just want to come in and clog the toilet and take all the tables? I've had it.
By the way, it's Brian, you can't, imagine doing this at any restaurant where you walk in and go, I'm just going to hang out. You can't. You go to a Greek diner in Midtown, they'll throw you out.
Right.
Starbucks
in
is
another
different.
language.
But it's a restaurant.
It's not.
But I will say this. This is your best block in a long time. You took me down 3 different roads,
It's
and I'm
unbelievable.
totally I can't beat that, but I would say this. I would say I know fundamentally I cannot use somebody's bathroom or get changed to pay a toll unless I buy something from that store. I just know that that's it because
your
these people have
parents
to make a
taught you
living.
that.
Yeah, you just know it. So
But
if you
isn't
don't
it
even
courteous? It's like courteous, right? If you go in to use the 7-Eleven bathroom, buy a Snickers.
And by the
Something
way,
like
the
that.
Starbucks and the Dunkin' Donuts have one thing in common. Their bathrooms are way too big. You could land a helicopter in them. We just need a small bathroom.
Oh, I like
People
the
laying
big
down.
bathrooms.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
Dana-
there's going to be a lawsuit, just so you know. Someone's going to be injured or stabbed or stalked. Happened. And then that's it for this.
Or you won't go. Or you're going to have to make your own coffee.
You know, Brian,
Yeah.
there's somebody over here that hasn't spoken.
There you go.
This ain't no Fox and Friends, all right?
We got
Dana,
5 here, not 3.
Dana, this is actually a failure of society in a way to figure out what to do with the homeless. This is like our Band-Aid.
Well, a couple things. One, so this falls into my PR law that every overreaction will cause an equal or greater overreaction.
That should be in your book.
And then this was going to happen. I'll write a new book, maybe. I'll put this back in there. I am for better and more public restrooms, okay? That doesn't have to be at somebody's private business. But if this private business decides that this is what it wants to do, okay, knock yourselves out. But I would rather go to Dunkin'.
Yeah, there
See?
you go. I think we solved one of
I don't
the
even
world's
drink
greatest
coffee,
problems.
That's
with
right,
Dunkin'
Steve.
Donuts.
The ladies
That way
will
they'll
be
send
at
us some
Dunkin'
stuff.
Donuts. Yes.
Right before the show's over.
Yeah,
And I'd
yeah,
like to make a suggestion for some Febreze in the bathrooms.
Okay.
Just a small suggestion.
That just covers it up, Kimberly. Should bosses crack down on employees' obsessive cell phone use? That debate next.
Evolution in pursuit of a dime. Wanna eat, gotta grind, so
New studies revealing some shocking information about just how addicted we all are to our cell phones. A recent one finds that the average person touches, pokes, pinches, and swipes their phone
Incredible. What do you mean
over
pinch?
2,600 times a day. That's unbelievable.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, because of this, one CEO is banning them in meetings, and others are trying to limit their employees' phone use. Now, we sit here at this desk, and there are 4 cell phones on the desk. Let me just tell you that.
And an iPad.
So what do you think, Kimberly? Is this a good idea to ban them?
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right?
It does.
Because then you just can't reach out, you can't touch them, you can't, it's to resist the temptation.
But is it-
Especially for people, I don't know, I just like to get things done and very organized, make lists like Dana did. I'm always like updating, calendar, this and that. So I'm always trying to get something done. I don't like downtime too much, confessions. But yeah, I think if you're in a meeting, you'd pay attention, et cetera. So maybe it's just like a good little bright line rule for certain meetings.
Brian, in fact, picking up on what Kimberly said, according to the studies, you have a lower level of cognitive performance if your mobile phone is on the desk.
This is the biggest issue in America today. because everyone has a phone. No matter how rich or poor you are, everyone's got a phone, and it's distracting. It's like, hey, you guys are okay, but the people here are more important.
Yeah.
And I think this boss is doing a great thing, and all of them, he or she is, by allowing us, making us put this away, so I have no choice. I will get in trouble unless I put it away.
By the way, you
That's
have
what I
too,
mean.
all the time on Fox and Friends, all the time when I used to fill in with you.
Can I just be a commentator and not my personal life?
Your personal
but
case
it is
study.
but it is a problem, Kimberly.
I know.
I'm telling you, I would just wonder how many times I would use it. Any of us would use it if we weren't in the news.
So, Dana, so I learned a new word today, nomophobia, which means no mobile phones make you afraid because you
Like you're missing out
want
on
your
something.
phone. You want to know what's going on.
I would say that if you're a recent graduate and you've just gotten a new job in the great new economy, if you want to get promoted, start today on the first job. Do not take your cell phone to any meeting. Don't take it out.
Yep.
And you will be noticed and it will be recognized.
This is a very good tip for minute
This is
mentoring.
going
Yes.
great, this block.
I'll put that in my new book too.
But Greg, do you disagree?
No, there's research that shows like the brain's function is to be attentive, and you could try this anytime you want. Try to pay attention to more than one thing. It's impossible. It's why we get obsessed over things. If somebody introduces a thought into your head, you will think about it, and you will not be able to think about anything else. You can say you're listening to your spouse while you're watching a game, but you're actually switching. It's imperceptible, but you're actually switching, and so you're actually missing out on important things. And this is actually pretty deadly. If you look at as the stuff is coming out with driving and texting, it's probably one of the most dangerous combinations you're going to find. And I don't know what the numbers are, but it's pretty close.
Well, what about you, show hosting and on Twitter?
What do you mean?
Freaking
I
out
do it
when
during a
people-
break, so I don't have to talk to you people.
Right.
Feelings.
Now we know how you really feel. And I just
Can
thought he
we
was
stay
being
on
cranky.
commercial break? then?
So we have
Yes.
one more thing to make you laugh. That's next on The Five.